A Simple Nativity, a PruittWrites Christmas audiobook. Mr. Freeman had owned the department chain for 40 years. They were famous in Washington state, especially at Christmas time. Each store had a rich and wonderful Christmas display. Greens and reds, gold and silver, trees and reindeer. Every store was trimmed and glistening. The crown of each store's display was a nativity scene. Most were grand and gilded. Some were originally from France, others from Switzerland, Great Britain, and across the world. Some had lights inside them. Each had a special feature or accent. All except the flagship store. It was on East Olive Street and had been Mr. Freeman's first store. As the city expanded, he had expanded it. The flagship store was second to none in everyone's eyes, with one puzzle. Oh, the Christmas display was beautiful and elegant. The tree was 20 feet tall, towering in the corner of the store, flanked by escalators trimmed in garland. In the center, a special wooden pedestal and a very plain-looking nativity sat on its glorious base. The old manager had retired in November, overseeing the last Christmas display before turning over the reins. The new manager was making plans to replace the nativity with something newer and fancier. The old manager had warned Mr. Freeman that his assistant had expressed his embarrassment at the simplicity of it before the transition. Because of this, on the new manager's first day, Mr. Freeman showed up. He made the young man look great in front of the team and threw his support behind him, then asked him out to lunch. "I've got an errand to run before we go to the steakhouse, Jim. Why don't you ride with me?" The young man was happy to get in Mr. Freeman's luxury SUV and go with him. At first, Jim thought, Mr. Freeman made a wrong turn. Then he didn't get on the interstate. In fact, Mr. Freeman headed towards the end of town. He stopped at a little dirty lot, where you could see that a house had been, but was gone for years now. At the edge of the small lot was an old oak tree. Mr. Freeman walked over to that tree. "My great-grandfather planted that tree, Jim. His son built the house that used to be there. His daughter, my mother, and her husband adopted me when I was 6 years old. They were the best parents I could ever have imagined. They were poor Jim, and they didn't have much until I was in high school. Dad built a business out of nothing but his creativity and his commitment. It was around Christmas time when I was 8 years old. I had visited a friend's house, and they had beautiful Christmas decorations. I loved them. Alan's dad had bought a new nativity for the fireplace. I thought it was gorgeous. Apparently, I talked about it all night that night. Dad and Mom couldn't afford to buy one. The next morning, after I went to school, Dad went to Alan's dad's work. He asked if he could look at the set to get an idea for something he wanted to build. Mr. Rose agreed. He had seen Dad's work. It took Dad 2 weeks, but without a lathe or any fancy equipment, he carved that nativity you are embarrassed by. Mom helped him stain it and wrap in dyed muslin for the clothing. It was the most beautiful gift I had ever been given, and I loved it. When I got my first store, and Dad and Mom came to see the first set of decorations, they saw the fancy base and their handiwork on display. Like me at 8, they were in tears. I was telling them that their gift and what they had given me was still the most valuable thing in my life and in the store. "Young man, don't be embarrassed at the simplicity of something that cost my dad time, even cuts in his hands, and took his own special talent to make happen." Jim was embarrassed now, for a totally different reason. "I'm sorry, Mr. Freeman. I didn't know. I understand now why it means so much to you." Mr. Freeman just laughed. "No, Jim, I really don't think you do. It's not just how that nativity came about, it's that it reflects the truth about the original. People were embarrassed by another carpenter a long time ago, but that's because they didn't know the cost behind the gift Mary carried either. It isn't just a set of figures. It's not about how beautiful it looks or how engulfing the story is. It's more than a story. It's the truth. There was a Father who loved us all enough to carve out a way to save us all. Like my dad, it took cuts in his hands and a whole lot more, but he carved out a place for us around him. And I'm not just talking about Bethlehem. All of this is what that nativity means to me. The store, the car, the things I've been blessed with are nice. I enjoy them, but if I can pass down what was passed on to me, then I'm successful. I was an orphan. I didn't have anyone, but they made me their son. The Lord Jesus offered the world the opportunity to become part of his family. That nativity doesn't just point to my dad. It points so much higher. Jim didn't know what to say, and Mr. Freeman didn't expect him to write then. He smiled at him and took him to eat that steak he had promised. They laughed, and they had a good afternoon. That night, Jim couldn't stop thinking about what Mr. Freeman had said. He hadn't thought much about church, or anything like that. Sarah, his wife, tried to get him to go with the boys, but he had been too busy. That next day, though, was Sunday. Jim didn't change overnight. He sat in the back that Sunday. But he did go back the next service. Eventually, he went much farther than the back seat. An encounter at the altar changed his life. 10 years later, he was standing in the pulpit telling the story of Mr. Freeman and the long-term effect of a simple nativity on display for the world to see. We hope you enjoyed this inspirational PruittWrites Christmas audiobook. To read more of our titles, check out Amazon.com/author/PruittWrites today.